So let's fast forward like quite a few decades, and Mingyur Rinpoche, who our audience will know well, walks into your lab. To make it brief, I know you met him some years before, and you have a long relationship with him. But he walks in, and I think you start. This is like 2010, and I think the technology you're using is EEG, and
we started with Mingyur Rinpoche in 2002.
2002. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so still a couple of decades later, and someone who's had, I guess, like I think in the book it says at some stage 62,000 hours of meditation experience, and then he goes on to another 4-year wandering retreat. Quite incredible. So quite a yogi to study. And so then he comes into your lab, and I believe he's doing the thing I'm thinking about is when he was doing 1 minute of compassion meditation and 30 seconds of break. And what's reported is that the instruments pick up this burst of electrical brain activity. I think it's gamma waves. And what's striking, this is something's picked up that's never been seen before by anyone doing this type of work. And it's someone that has got this like burst of activity, gamma waves that last for this 1 minute, I guess, for the length of the meditation. And normally you'd see this lasting for, 1/5 of a second, these moments of creative insight. And so then the team is sort of blown away by that. And I'm wondering, is that accurate? Is my sort of telling of that story accurate? Can you fill it in? But what I want to really know is, okay, this has never been seen before. Why is that significant? And what is that telling you about the meditation state? Yeah. I guess are my questions.
So first, your rendering of that story is quite accurate. So, we first tested Mingyur Rinpoche in 2002, and we were at the very beginning of our studies of long-term meditation practitioners, and we reasoned the following. We reasoned that this would be a good place to start because these people are all very experienced, like Mingyur Rinpoche. And also, the laboratory environment is not exactly the most conducive environment to deep states of meditation. And so having a person who is very experienced really can be helpful in enabling them to meditate even under these strange laboratory conditions. And so we reasoned that if we couldn't see a difference in someone like Mingyur Rinpoche, then it was going to be very unlikely that we would see changes in the brain among novice meditators. So we felt that this was a very good place to begin because it would be informative and would allow us to see whether the measures we were thinking of using were sufficiently sensitive to detect changes that were associated with the meditation. So when we first tested Mingyur Rinpoche, he was actually the second monastic, highly experienced practitioner that we tested. The first one was Meditator, who your listeners probably know about. When we tested Meditator and Mingyur Rinpoche, we were really quite blown away because we had never seen anything like that. And moreover, as you correctly stated, nobody had ever seen anything like that anytime, anywhere. It was the very first time that anybody had recorded those very high amplitude gamma oscillations that were present throughout the meditation period. But one of the things we talk about in the book Altered Traits was what also was quite revealing, although we didn't grasp the significance of it at the time, was that their, quote, baseline state, when they weren't formally meditating, was also infused with gamma oscillations, much more than a person who had not done any practice. And so not only did we see these gamma oscillations when they were meditating, We saw them enhanced during meditation, but their baseline state was significantly enhanced compared to age and gender match controls who had not meditated.
Can I ask a question on that? Are we talking about the 30 seconds in between meditation? Or is this the case that if you just put Mingyur Rinpoche, you hooked him up, he's got that, without even meditating first, he's got that Gemma signature there?
Without even meditating first.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what does that mean, given that Gemma, occurs in these sort of flashes of insight or something like that, very short? Or does everyone have Gamma at some point? Or what does it mean that we can just hook him up without even meditating and you're seeing some level of Gamma oscillation?
Well, there are several different ways to answer that question. The most honest, which is the least interesting way to answer it, is to say we don't know still at this point. And it's something that we and other scientists are actively exploring. Having said that, we certainly have some clues. So most people, whether or not they meditate, show some gamma activity. As you said in your introduction to this section, when we see gamma in a person with no meditation history, we typically see it for really short periods of time, on the order of less than 1 second. And it's associated with these bursts of insight. It's also associated with the fusing together of different elements of a conscious perception. So, for example, if I ask you to imagine biting into a juicy, fresh apple, you might have the visual image of the apple. You might have the tactile sensations of biting. You might have the sound of the crunch, the taste. All of those different elements sort of come together, and there may be a burst of gamma just at those moments where all of that comes together. What we see in practitioners like Mingyur Rinpoche is that those gamma oscillations are not episodic. They're just continuously present. And we think that it is the neural reflection of a kind of panoramic awareness.
Yep.
Where there is just, a kind of 360 integration of everything that's happening externally and internally.
Yep.
And it's all coming together and it's all available in awareness. So that's what we think it is reflecting in kind of phenomenological terms.
Yeah. So for an ordinary person, if we all had these EEG machines hooked up 24/7, right? For an ordinary person, when I'm, imagining biting into an apple, or I'm having these moments, every now and again, you'd see this flash of, gamma oscillation. But for Mingyur Rinpoche, if you had it on 24/7, you pretty much see gamma most of the time. Is that gamma
including during sleep?
Including during sleep. And then how does that level, like the insight I might have when I solve a problem, right? How that level of gamma versus his flat rate, is his much lower? Is his much higher? What is the standing sort of state for him?
Yeah, of course, it depends on the comparison with the, in individuals. You may see a high amplitude burst of gamma for a quarter of a second in a person. But in general, his baseline amplitude is much higher than anything you would see in an untrained person.
Yeah, incredible.